All right. It is another great one on Black Belts and Boardrooms. It is a cold, cold day. A lot of people are staying in their houses in a lot of different cities right now. So, when people hear freezing and cold in Texas, people, go to the store, buy all the toilet paper, all the plastic bags, everything, nothing for a couple of days. But man, I am excited about who we have on today. He is a friend of the show. He is a friend of both of ours. Amir, who do we have today?
Renard, I am so stoked today. Speaking of cold weather, I will say this episode is going to warm you right up. Because for starters, our good friend here is somebody who's very high energy. And I'm so happy that he took the time to join us on this show today. He is not only the VP for CISO Ascent, where he makes sure that leaders are growing not only in their profession, but also in their personal lives. He not only helps people grow in their careers, and this is what I love about him. He has a show that he co hosts called Time Out with Leaders. And I'm so glad that Mr. Tyler White is taking a time out with us today here on Black Belts and Boardrooms. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Dude, Amir, Renard, good to see you, fellas. I'm fired up, like you said, and I'll try to bring the pain over here, a little energy to this snowy day, and warm y'all up.
Well, Tyler, I'm not much of a football person, but I know you are. So, how about we start with one of your passions, which I know is football and more specifically, Arkansas Razorbacks, right?
Dude, you nailed it. And right now, Amir, so we're claiming basketball a little bit more than football nowadays. We went over in the SEC this year, but Mr. Tyson Chicken bought us John Calipari a couple of years ago. So we're really liking our hoops right now. But I could go all day about either. But like I said, man, we're fired up about our basketball team a little more since we dropped a goose egg in the SEC this year. So yeah, we'll see. And we got a new coach in football, so a lot of moving parts, man. A lot of moving parts with hog ball right now.
That's fantastic. So now, Tyler, I gotta know, man, what is it about your origin story that we should know that brings you all of this passion about not only Arkansas, but the work that you do? Because I know you're very passionate in your professional life. You're somebody who never wants to give up. Help us understand, where does that energy, where does that never giving up attitude comes from?
Well, Amir, when I grew up, dude, I thought everyone's dad was like a Texas and Arkansas high school football coach. I was just small, and so the thing that pops out to me was the attention to detail growing up. Like, and I thought everyone had attention to detail, like to the ultimate magnitude that you could imagine. And that's where I think a lot of it lies, just that competitive spirit. Never complaining is what I kind of remember. Like it was always like, what's the solution to this play or to this absolute 5-star that we're about to go up against, right? Like just little different things in there. I remember like we had a whole package set up for, we were playing Kendrick Perkins in an AAU tournament one time. He was like a 7-foot center out of Beaumont, Ozone, Texas. I remember their mascot was the Ozone. And the dude didn't even warm up against us, and we had a heck of a team, but we had a heck of a game plan, Amir. And that was my favorite. I think we held them to like 9 points or something crazy at like 6-11 in high school. But I guess all the strategy and the hard work is what I love. Like, especially in basketball, that's a sport you could really practice on your own. Football is a little harder, baseball a little harder to practice on your own. But in my mind, if I'm out there making 300 to 500 3-pointers a day, I might have an advantage. So anything that could just level me up and I could do it on my own, and it really translates to business. When I meet someone who's an athlete in business, it just clicks to me real quick. I'm like, oh, that's why you go up above and beyond, probably. And I always ask the question, and they're like, absolutely. Those 2-a-days that I used to get through, and just I don't know, the work ethic I think was just ingrained in me, Amir.
That's amazing. Something us three share is that athletic background. I mean, Renard as a black belt in jiu-jitsu, myself as a black belt in taekwondo, and you in athletics, baseball, football, basketball. So, as you think about your leadership journey, Tyler, help us, frame what does Tyler learn as a leader and what does Tyler bring in the way of leadership?
Excitement and fun is like my passion. Like, even like, so my dad was kind of scary growing up, but I always would ask the players. I'd be like, "Hey, what do you think of my dad?" or something, and they'd be, I would say, "Hey, why are y'all winning all these games by like 50 or 60 or something?" And they said, "Dude, your dad makes it fun." And I was like, "My dad makes it fun?" Like, so my mom started calling my dad Mr. Fun growing up because he was not like fun at the house. But that always instilled in me like ways to leadership. You gotta have some energy, or find out. It doesn't have to be like crazy maniac high level energy either. To me, like, there's different ways to influence people and really influence them, I think, and to make it fun. Like, and I always ask my dad too, "Dad, why are you beating these teams so bad?" He would say, "I make it fun." Um, so I think any way to sort of like to provide purpose for people, like true purpose, not just the dang word purpose, but like, if you can have a team of 10, let's just say, or 22 people, and they're waking up every day with that glimpse of purpose, I think that's what I've learned along the way, guys. It sounds simple, but I don't think it's that simple. When it's your job to do that.
Yeah. Renard, I'm sure you have a thing or two to say about this. Simplicity, making it simple is probably one of the hardest things we do, not only as leaders, but even if you're developing a product. How do you make anything simple?
I agree with that. I agree with that. Simplicity is rare. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people make it more complicated than it is. Even what we do, we can make it more complicated, and sometimes it's a simple answer. I'm kind of curious, Tyler. Me and you talk a lot, and I always tell people that Tyler has this power of connection. I feel like that's your niche. This thing about getting people together, no matter if it's an event, or if it's recruiting, or if it's CISO Ascent. How did that happen? How did you learn? Like, man, I can get all these people in the room of these different industries and say, man, I can get these people together and they're gonna have a good time.
So that's another thing that's harder than it looks too. I found out, Renard. So like, when I used to go to like these events, and I would pay like $150 to go to it, or whatever it was. And there'd be like 4 panelists and like 5,000 or whatever, 2,000 people at the event. And just, I walked out of my last one of those, guys, and I was like, I need to make something that actually moves the needle, that matters. Like, we're all here looking at 4 panelists, and then they run out the room. I was like, what are we doing here? And in order to make connections that matter, you got to be trusted, is what I found out along the way, from people that can make decisions. That's kind of the latter of it to me. It's just not to make a connection to make a connection. It's to me, it's making connections, like I said, that can move the needle, that has true influence. And that takes sometimes months, years to establish, I think, guys. But once you start the momentum of that, and once you see that first connection work, and I'm not even talking about getting paid for it or nothing, guys, just something that worked one time. And guys, I've been fishing, making connections, and getting people interviews from a boat before. You just never know. But what I do know is, for instance, that example, that referral came from a very high level CTO just talking about a kid, 3 years in cyber. The kid was curious as hell, is what he said. And I got that guy just that interview ASA, in like 3 days, and an offer in like 10 days. So that was a connection that mattered. But if you backtrack it, if I didn't put all that time in with that certain person to build that trust, I would have never known about the opportunity. So I guess, just building that hierarchy of just leaders out there that can move the needle is all I'm really looking for, guys. It's a simple idea, but to build the trust in them, and building trust outside of business is where it's at for me, I think. It's like, how can I help your kid with an internship? Or how can I help a family, or even outside of business? I do training in basketball up here. Everywhere I move, by the way, I fall into training kids in basketball. It just keeps following me from Western New York to Arkansas to Texas. But that really kicks it the kicks the level of connection up when you can help people outside of business, even sometimes. And I don't think a lot of people think of that. I mean, it's a lot of work, guys, to carry that load on. But once you see it work a few times, that's the power to me.
I agree with that. It's funny, and I think I told Amir this when me and you first met. And a lot of people know I was on your podcast first, and I remember you reached out to me, and I was like, man, who is this guy with all this energy? I'm like, this is weird. I've never been around somebody who was just so happy. But I tell people all the time that it's contagious in a way, like it's something you want to be around. It's people are not used to someone just excited that way, but once you're around, you be like, "Man, I wanna be around this on a regular basis." That's how me and you became friends after that. I was like, "Man, yeah, Tyler's cool. I can hang out with Tyler anytime."
Y Thanks, Renard, and I think it comes down to, like, no expectations, guys. Like, I hang around a lot of people in my seat or in my job career, and they all have these dang expectations, and that just makes that relationship so weird and awkward to me. Eh, it's like, can we know each other on a personal level first? And maybe someday I can actually help you out, in different ways too. It's not just one way. I think we all get siloed into these one ways we can help people because we just trudge down this like career path we have. The guys, we're like floating on a blue ball in the middle of space, right? At the end of the day, like we're not that we take ourselves so dang serious with those expectations. I think that's what really affects that relationship to really blossom to real friends. And I will say, Renard, it does freak people out at first. I've had many people tell me like a year down the road, they're like, damn, Tyler, I thought you were coming at me for something and you still haven't asked me for nothing. And I'm like, so it's like it's a serve first mentality, right? I wake up in the morning every day. How can I serve first? Especially if I haven't met anybody. I'm not just calling someone saying, hey, can you give me some business? No, you would have to pay me a lot of money, guys, to even do that, So I'm just about the authenticity, just making it authentic and not even just making it happen natural. To me, it's like I either attack my day or my day attacks me, guys. So if I'm on the attacking the day side, seeing how I can serve first, it's just the only way I know how to do it, and it entertains me too. It keeps me more fun than just thinking about me. So once I get outside of myself is when I can make some real magic happen. I've learned, which is another thing that sounds simple, but it ain't too simple sometimes for me at least.
I get it. You got the back end. What's the word to say? You do all the hard work in the back end to make everything look easy to people, but they don't know how much work you're putting in to make it look easy.
Guys, I used to like, and no offense about some of these job titles, but I used to be like networking with like Aflac reps and like just like nowhere near my industry, So I started way down there, guys. My first event was like $11 I went to, and it was an $11 event, fellas. And I remember like because I did this in Rochester, New York as well when I was in sales, but I wasn't in sales at first when I was down here. So I remember that first $11 event, guys. I was like, here we go, starting here, but I think, meeting people, even outside your industry, can help you sometimes, or you can help them. So it's all about that connection part. But like I said, I thought it was like a fantasy when I first started, guys. I was like, am I really going to be networking with the right people ever? And then you see it click a few times, little clicks too, not nothing drastic by any means. But once you start seeing it happen, then you can live to tell the war stories, right? That's what I love. When I meet a fellow who's 24 years old and he's out there selling security solutions, I can give him my experience. I'm making $150 a day, asking people how their Sim's doing, and just getting hung up on, But I was doing it wrong, guys. So I've done it wrong and I've done it right. So that's my favorite part of life, guys. I don't know why I'm addicted to people or I'm just influenced by people that have just absolutely failed miserably.
Yeah. I'm reminded we all talk about, wanting to be part of things and then always making sure we leave it better than we found it. I think that attitude resonates with a lot of people. But one thing I appreciate about you, Tyler, is that, you take that attitude with people. I want to leave people better than I found them when they interact with me. And I think that is such a great way to lead, not just teams and people, but just yourself in general. So at least for me personally, this is something I've observed about you, and I appreciate that about you, man. It's just leave people better than you found them.
Yeah, man. And Amir, I got that from Deepak Chopra, a little bit of it, I think. He has a book called, I actually have it. It's not the way of the wizard. It's his other one. I can get it back to you. But he says every time he goes into a room, he just says a short little prayer to bring joy over people, like just surround people with joy. And that gets him out of his own self. So I've been doing that for the past probably year and a half. Like even when it was an event that I was like, oh heck, this isn't going to be serving to me, I would switch that attitude real stinking quick. I would say, hey, God, higher power, whatever y'all do, just let me bring some joy over one person in this room. Let me make someone's freaking day tonight. And then I get all fired up. Then I get into the room and no one knows I just had that prayer. Nobody knows I'm talking to something way bigger than me to try to bring that soul and that energy and that spirituality to either one person, a group of people. It don't matter to me, but like affecting one person's life, even cheering them up one day. Because I've got some crazy phone calls on how I've helped people before, not in very good spots, just within their like life, and that's a whole nother level, guys. A connection. Once you like really dig into someone's spirit and stuff, and you lightened it up, and you had no stinking idea, like that's some connection right there, guys. That gets the hair on my arms kind of rising up a little bit.
Yeah. So Tyler, I'm going to pivot just a little bit because I know you have some expertise in this area. So the job market right now is looking really challenging for a lot of people, and I know a lot of people just in my personal networks where they're really struggling. I would love to hear your perspective. What are you seeing today, just in general with the job market, and how can we be a little bit tactical, especially for the folks who are, in the market looking for opportunities? Like, what would you tell them?
I think I'll go back to like 2021, just paint a picture. We had like, we're global. We have 33 offices across the country, all about jobs is what my company does. And I'm like a nerd for the market. But I remember guys in let's call it 2021, like a database administrator still existed. I don't think I've seen a DBA for 2 years come up on our board anywhere. Project managers, I was placing project managers, I don't know, 8, 9 a month, and then where'd they go? And that's what I'm seeing that trend. But then you see the trend of the large language the LLMs and the machine learning and the data folks right now are the big ones. Because I think a lot of people are trying to get their data organized before they implement this AI stuff so it actually matters and works. So like you should see my board nowadays, y'all. It's just data scientists, data modelers. You say data at a high level, it's hot, especially, and of course the machine learning stuff. But like that's where I see it, guys. Like those tactical, like we have AI to take minutes now on meetings, right, and notes, and to follow up. And I'm like, oh golly, man, where my PMs going, y'all? So I think that's what I see. And then I have a lot of people thinking it's their resume. That's the big thing, guys. Lots of people. I just got off a call. It's my resume. I'm like, it can't be your resume. It's got to be. You got to know some folks, guys. That like us three did not get to where we are by ourselves. I don't think is what I tell everybody. I use myself as an example. Some people have boosted me up along the way. So if you're trying to get a new job or someone to just take a shot on you and you don't, and your skill sets are outdated, is maybe how I'll put it. I don't know. I'm thinking skill up, right? Find something with automation involved or AI like that. That's my 2 cents on it from what I see globally on the hiring market, and that's contract or direct hire. Yeah, the people that are struggling, they're struggling, I think, because they haven't had to network ever really, and they don't know where to start. And I don't know if they want to go through what I went through to do it. So I don't know, Amir. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So I mean, you have a lot of knowledge on the other side of that equation. We talk about hiring managers, but you're actually connecting the hiring manager with candidates. And I think that's a perspective we haven't had yet, at least on our show, Renard. I at least not that I can think of. So on that same note, Tyler, you mentioned AI note taking, and I think that's a salient point. There's a lot of jobs that you and I know of in the information age that are going to go away. So if I break it up into eras, information age is where we were, and we're transitioning now into where the information is more actionable, intelligible with the help of AI and machines in general. So what are you seeing in your space with respect to AI? I mean, data science is only one aspect. How do you see AI changing the landscape, and what can we take away from how it's shaping up?
Oh, golly, change. I mean, it's. I think there's a lot of unknowns right now, but those unknowns are what's really putting a lot of things on pause. Is what I'm finding out. Like, I got a couple clients that have massive projects coming up, and they don't know how they're gonna attack it just yet because they wanna see some very visible ROI with AI. Like, as simple as you can imagine, I think, is what I'm seeing right now, whether it's like their ticketing systems or their just anything that the tactical stuff. So I'm seeing the tactical stuff just getting wiped out or wanting to get wiped out, and I think the wanting to the replaces what's really holding this market up, right, as we speak, on today, on what a January 21st or whatever day it is today. That's I'm seeing a lot of things on pause right now, and that's probably why we're seeing a lot of folks not getting jobs or there's no jobs for them.
Do you so learning and development or human capital development, as HR folks call it, do you see that ramping up in companies where they're helping their employees level up, or is it pretty much leave it to each person to level themselves up?
Well, I can speak on, like, my side, if that's alright, just from what I'm seeing, and we have a whole, like, AI training program right now. That's hotter than a blueberry pancake, man. Like, I didn't because you hear, like, trainings, and you probably know my mindset, guys. I'm like, "Oh, great, whatever. That's not that exciting," but it's exciting to some clients is what I've seen. I'm like, "Oh, this thing is cool." Okay. And usually, guys, when it comes to new stuff like that, I'm usually wrong. Just so our audience knows, if it's not super flashy and fun, I don't think it's for me. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of upskilling, Amir, and a lot of our competitors are doing the same kind of model. And I've asked some of my peers over there, and they said, yeah, everyone loves it. So I think the upskilling, it's out there, and I think take that upskilling on your own, on yourself, is what I say to people. Dude, I got a guy that I work with. I'm like, how do you know all this? And he does so much extra on stuff on his own time. You know, guys, it's 2026, right? Get on YouTube. Apply for AI driven upskilling courses. They're online. I think UT Austin's got a fantastic one. And I keep that I know people have gone through the courses, but I would just say get as curious as you can. Ask your peers what they're doing. Why don't you reach out to the VP of AI at A, B, X, Y, and Z and say, hey, man, we don't know each other, but this is what I'm looking to get into. You have any recommendations? I guarantee you that VP of AI is going to be like, absolutely, this is what I did, or 50% of the time. So I do think instead of making the excuse on how to defend Kendrick Perkins, 7-foot high schooler, to come up with a solution on your own. If you want it bad enough, you're going to figure out how to do it. Is how I'm built.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's a great attitude.
yeah, I see the same thing. And the funny thing is, I just had a conversation with an executive. We were talking about like how hard it is for people to get jobs unless you know someone, like you said. Getting to know the executive recruiter, et cetera, not just applying because AI is basically looking at AI to determine who even gets a conversation, and it's just not working. The amount of jobs, the funny thing is, I don't think people know the amount of jobs that are available. There are a whole bunch of people, no one's getting those jobs. It's just sitting there collecting dust. So they need people like Tyler and his company in order to get that gap and get past those mechanisms. So I think that human connection, and you're right, there's a lot of people, especially in tech, who are not used to garnering those connections and having those conversations. They're using the head down, I do the work, this is what I do. But I think all of us, even myself, I'll be honest, man, the power of connection is so real. Like you said, it's funny. I met Tyler, all of a sudden I met Joe, all of a sudden I met a whole bunch of other people, and now we're all friends. Same thing with Amir. I was in this cohort. I met Amir. We have a podcast. Stuff happens because of the power of connection. And segueing in it, you're a podcast host yourself. You have your own podcast, Time Out with Leaders, which is a awesome podcast with your co-host Kevin. If you could tell us about the podcast and why is it so important?
Yeah, guys. So we were just like, I think we were like 31 years old or something, and we like didn't know anyone like important, you know. And we were up in Rochester, New York, and I was like, "Hey, Kev, how do we meet like C levels at like Paychecks and Wegmans and like these fun places, you know?" Because we were like cold callers at the time. And we sent out 15 emails, guys. We didn't even have a podcast. We just sent out 15 emails to some folks at Paychecks and Wegmans and Constellation Brands, I remember, and like some old Kodak folks. And like 9 people said, "We'd love to do this." We're like, "Geez, we don't got no chat GPT. We don't have anything, you know, and we have Zoom. We bought like a Zoom license for like, I don't know, $14 a month or something. And our first one was like a CEO of a robotics company up there. And guys, I was so nervous on that call. Like, it was like me and Kev, we used to like sit by each other like a bunch of dorks, and we didn't know what we were doing. We had like a big whiteboard of all these questions behind us, so everything was scripted, and it didn't. We were just learning, you know, is what we were failing really every episode in my eyes looking back. But what it brought, guys, was awesome. Just a community of like 130 leaders or so that we've interviewed, and we want nothing for it, you know, just to make someone shine in a fun way. You know, I've had leaders be on there before, and I'll watch an older podcast of theirs on another one, and a lot of those podcasts are missing the meat and potatoes and like the sizzle from some of these folks. You know, so I like really understanding the human. I remember it was like episode 17, guys, and I was so tired of leadership talk. I was like, "Kevin, I can't just sit here and talk about leadership this whole time. Like, if I hear one more person say, 'Don't miss your one-on-one,' I'm going to lose it." You know, because it was like fake fun to me. So that's when we started diving into people's like, not like personal lives, but really getting to know, because anyone can click on your LinkedIn and see what you do, you know. And if we're talking about your perspective of your security posture for 55 minutes, guys, that ain't me. You know, that ain't me. But what it's done, guys, it's just been awesome, you know, interviewing anyone from like the press secretary for like Ronald Reagan to folks that played basketball for John Wooden. Never thought that happened to us. And it's just so fun to me nowadays. Like, we get screened sometimes by like the enterprise level folks, like super enterprise, right? I won't name the name, but we had like 6 people screen us a couple weeks ago. And at the end of the call, the VP looked at everyone. He goes, "Guys, I don't need a script for this. Let's just do it." And I was like, "That's what it's about, guys. You know, we don't need no ghostwriters, no panel script writers, or, you know, it's it opened doors up that I couldn't do on a cold call or a cold LinkedIn is the bottom line, I think. And my other favorite part is like, I always tell people, my family knows how hard I work. My work knows how hard I work. But this person that I've never met knows nothing about me, which sharpens my sword, you know, to me at least. Meeting a total stranger who has just as much grind or all that, you know, grind or work ethic or innovation that you do, it just reinvents myself once a week, every week. And then what's funny, and y'all probably have the same experience. After that podcast, I feel pretty darn good every single time. And then I say to myself, because I do a little, like, for lack of a better word, preaching about what I do. So if I say that on that podcast, guys, you bet your ass that I'm going back to the workshop and I'm doing it. I'm doing what I'm saying is why it really helps me. I'm finding out.
I gotta agree with that. I think even for us, it has sharpened our swords. It has elevated our own personal craft as well. I told people when we started our podcast, I got so good at public speaking because we talk so much. I'm never uncomfortable talking in front of people now because we have these conversations with like your podcast with so many great high level people, but we just want to hear a good story. I agree. I don't want to hear about how you know put in a system and for an hour and a half. I really don't want to hear that. That's cool, but I really want to hear about you and why. What did you do to get to where you are? Personal, etcetera, because I'm always on the aspect of, man, the stuff I know now, I wish I would have known in my 20s. Stuff I know now, I wish I know when I started, and that's why I love podcasts like yours, Time Out with Leaders, a couple of other ones, etcetera. I actually love watching ours, I'll be honest. I sit there and watch our podcast. So I think it's good, and that goes back again to the power of connection. Even in a podcast, it's still there.
Yeah, Renard, and dude, it's also helped me like internally at wherever I'm working. Because like everyone would say, "Hey, the SLT team's coming in, or the CEO, global CEO's coming in, or something." And in my head, I'm like, "Well, I know like 110 of those kinds of people, or I talk to those kinds of people every." And I don't say this out loud or anything, but it's just a feeling I get. And everyone's just a human being at the end of the day. And then you construct yourself so different. Not like being impressed with people, you know what I mean? Like not in a bad way, or I'm just not like nervous and think that you're high and mighty and whatnot is another thing that that's benefited me at least in the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I agree, and I wanna we talk about the podcast, and now we segue into not you're an executive yourself. You're a VP of partnerships for CISO Ascent, which, man, the momentum y'all have, is crazy to me. The momentum you have. Please tell us about CISO Ascent, what you're doing, why connecting all these leaders in, I'm gonna say, a non-conventional way makes sense.
So what's cool to me is that's how I got asked to do it. And I'll tell y'all a little bit about that. I About a year and a half ago, I met a CISO around here and I just had lunch with him at Hurtado Barbecue in Arlington. And I didn't even tell him what I did for a living, is the story he tells. He said, "Dude, I left that lunch and I had no clue what that dude did on the day-to-day job." And he just thought it was the cool he said he's never met a vendor or a salesperson to just have barbecue and let it be. So about a year and a half passed, and the CISO called me. He actually texted me, and I thought he came up with, like, some new security product, which I get texted all the time, guys, to make introductions out for firewalls, you name it, I just get pinged, and I thought he literally texted me that, so I texted him back while I was driving. I was like, "Hey, man, let me find you someone for that." I don't that's a lot of work, guys, or it's just not my bag. Then I read his text message, like, 2 days later, and I said, "Son of a gun," I said, "This dude, he's getting Fortune 100 CISOs going hiking twice a year." And I was like, "Hey, hey, 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 I'm your guy, man." And he goes, "I thought so. I thought you'd be interested in this." And so, man, it's just the coolest thing, guys. We get on our next one. We've only done one. It was in Asheville, North Carolina. We had about 28 CISOs come. It was our first one. Nervous as can be, right? Having these high powered folks come in, and it ran as smooth as you can imagine. Um, and what was cool about it, it was like summer camps for C-level CISOs. Like true, like people were like kind of sad when they left. It was a 3-day event. And that's the thing. Like, with our Lone Star, that's a 3-hour event, which we're doing a heck of a job with that, fellas, Amir and Renard. But like this 3-day event, like I've never seen anything like it. Like true, just friends being made over 3 days, over hikes, over breweries, over breakfast, lunch, ordering wings at 2 a.m. You see some of this stuff you'd never see on a 3-hour occasion or whatnot. But our second one sold out in about 48 hours. We have 55 CISOs going. I think the revenue is like an average of like around 9 billion or something. So it's some pretty heavy hitters, and everyone's excited about it as well. And you guys know me. I like things that are exciting, and we're coming out with another Ascent coming soon, guys. You guys will know about it, but I've never seen anything like the event that we started, and the momentum, Renard. It happened overnight, really. I think we have like 390 CISOs in it, and like 17 on the waiting list to go to the Colorado one. It's kind of cool when you can tell 17 CISOs that can't come. I think we're on to something here, man. But yeah, just and that's another thing. Serving first on that trip. I was hauling people back from the airport and back, or if they needed to go somewhere because they're all in a hotel, but I have access to a 20 passenger van. And guys, the van was where it's at. Like, sure, the hikes were cool, the breweries were cool, but dude, it got pretty freaking wild in those vans a few nights. And that was where like the true fun, the ad hoc stuff. And it's cool to be a leader of that group so we can be flexible. And that's why the founder brought me in, because we are two total opposites, guys. He started his first business at 8 years old, sold his second one at 13, graduated from college at 15. I'm the total opposite of that. Yeah, and it just works out.
That's amazing. It's incredible what happens when you bring people together for a shared goal, and that's what I get from you is that this CISO Ascent opportunity for them to just shed that corporate, mask for a few days. I mean, that's a very powerful space to be in.
It is. It's all and it's it, and so me and the founder were stressed the whole time, but everybody else was having a blast, just getting out. No cell service. And that's what we heard talks of. And I had my ears and my eyes open the whole time, and people were just excited to get away with their peers, and seeing another CISO step away was big for them. And then seeing 428 or however many we had on that first one, they're like, so in my head, they're in their, if I'm in their shoes, they see 27 more peers just as important as they are for security with no cell signal in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Maybe this is okay for me. And that's what I heard a lot of, people finally just kind of letting their guard down for 3 days and just re-energizing them and getting excited for the next one. And also, giving back to the community of Asheville. I mean, bringing that many folks to a small town and running up some tabs with, thousands of dollars of drinks and dinners and stuff, that probably helped them out. And they were fired up too. Like, the people of Asheville were super pumped. But yeah, that's what I see, Amir.
It's amazing. I think about what I do, and man, let me tell you, 24/7, 365, if I had to take 3 days away, I'd be nervous. Like, I would be nervous. And to hear you say that about CISOs, which is even more stressful, gets me excited. Now I'm waiting for, like, the opportunity to just unplug for 3 days with no cell signal.
Yeah, yeah, and you see like 50 other people doing it too.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and then you get back, and guess what? The world's still spinning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So Tyler, what is the one thing that you took away that was the most fun in this experience?
Most fun, one takeaway. Just making real friends, knowing what people really love outside of business was my favorite part. Like, I can ping the CISO, I won't say the name, but I know him and his son just are big Baltimore Oriole fans, and they collect like AAA and AA baseball cards. Little did he know I'm a nerd for like the minor leagues in baseball too. And we were talking in this van about people you won't hear about for 5 years. So like those and my buddies from Canada, like just fun things and hearing everyone like everyone's excitement for what they like outside of work was my favorite part, because that's what really gets me going. Like, and that's goes back to leadership for me. I always love a leader who's not just 100% obsessed with what we're doing at the job. Like, sure, we're getting our job done correctly to the T, but what else are you interested in? And like, what, like Amir or Renard, what could you guys teach me in life outside of our work? Is what I love. And I can Google a lot of this stuff, but guys, I don't like to do that. I would rather ask a human being their experience and why they're excited about it. I like asking people, why are you so into A, B, and C? And just that's where I think life's about, guys. Like, it ain't about this day to day all the time. And just and going back to like leaders I've had before that were just only obsessed with our work. God, like no family, no kids, no excitement after it. Those aren't fun people for me to work for. I need someone who is all in, of course, but just has other outlets in life. Because I feel people's vibrations. I think, guys, like I've been at events before. Well, I'll just meet, like, I call them like paper towels or napkin personalities, and then I'll find someone who's like vibrating at the same frequency I'm at, and I'm like, who are you? we we are friends. If you didn't know, I know we just met, but there's just something I feel in people. And I don't know where I'm really going with that, but that's what I'm at. That's what I'm seeking, I think.
Yeah.
Just people that have the same, I guess, the same kind of attitude for life. And it doesn't evolve around the day to day 95% of the time, really.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of 2 things, Tyler. One of them is philosophical, and the philosophical thing is, I'm someone who firmly believes that we're all very different for a reason, and this is an opportunity for us to learn from one another. So I think you're a living, walking example of that, just like Renard and myself. We're constantly trying to learn from other people. So philosophically, we're different so that we can learn from one another. The second thing I'm gonna say is, I don't believe that as leaders we can be two-dimensional, to your point. you have to be a three-dimensional human being, and you have to show up as a three-dimensional human being in the workplace or in your personal life. And there's a lot of chatter, about work-life balance. I actually no longer subscribe to that idea of work-life balance. I mean, really, it's just you as a human being. There's no box that says, if I push this button, there's going to be Amir the dad. If I push that button, there's going to be Amir the architect who builds software, Amir the leader who shows up for his team or whatever else. There's no box. It's all packaged into this one persona that we all walk around carrying with ourselves. It's just that depending on the situation, we just pull out the right hat, the right costume, so that we can, pull out the right tools that go with that costume. And then when the work is done, we put it all back, but it's still the same person that's showing up.
Yeah, Amir and Renard, I think to touch on that, I think I don't know when it happened, but I started making it my lifestyle to so I'm in the IT sector, of course, that I was like, how can I make this my lifestyle so it doesn't feel like work at all? Make it fun, like my dad taught me as a young kid. And I think if I'm doing it as a lifestyle, those are meaningful relationships that is helping with maybe that 1D part of my life, but they can also help me in that 2D, 3D part maybe that you were talking. And I like how you said that, Amir. I'm gonna take that from you. That's what I was trying to say that whole time. And of course, Amir comes out with a great terminology for it. But I think if you can focus on it, the work-life balance ain't a thing for one. If you want to really win, if you want to kind of get by, try to figure that balance out. I dare you. You'll spend more energy on trying to figure that out than you would just doing it. But I that's how I see it. If you can make what you're doing a part of your lifestyle, it just changes the game for me at least.
That's a if that was rap, that's a bar right there. That's a bar. That's what I have to say. I feel like you're a man of the people, because you definitely connect with people. You're almost like what The Rock used to be, the people's champion. I think that's a good title for you.
Yeah, and Renard, that's what I want to be, man. Like that's it. Period. Like you can end that sentence right there. Like I don't want to get too intricate, too labeled, because guys, I helped my neighbor the other day. I entered his daughter is in design, like fashion design. So she goes to Iowa State. And I go, okay, I connected her with one just random dude I met in Dallas that's in fashion. And he goes, I'll be darned. He goes, one of my mentors is the Iowa State director of fashion design. And I was like, are you kidding me, dude? So just outside, so then he connected her with her and I could probably stop it right there, but it don't have to be what exactly in IT to feel that fire. And as long as that momentum keeps sparking up in my DNA and my fiber, every fiber in my body is what really keeps me going. But man, just connected, being the people's champ is all I'm good at, really, and I'm proud to say it. And like I said, it freaks people out sometimes, and that a year later they'll be like, "Dude, when I met you, I didn't think you'd still be the same."
Hey, hey, like I told you, I think it shocks. I'm not gonna say shock. It's different because everybody's so business minded, and they're trying to be this person, and then you come along and you're just you, and it probably takes some people aback. But I told somebody at our last event, I said, man, I said when I met Tyler, I said him being so excited was weird to me, but then all of a sudden I was like, dude, this is one of my friends, man. I said, I can hang out with Tyler 24/7. My wife knows, etc. I was like, dude, that's sometimes you need that. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes you need someone who brings life into the room. You need that. So yes, you are definitely from now on, you are definitely the people's champion.
Well, I'll take that any day, Renard. And like I'll tell the listeners, that's not even a job to me. That's something that affected people's lives in a meaningful way. And the meaningful part is where the work is where you got to put the work in. Because if you don't know anyone, guys, that can make any calls or make any decisions I've been there. I was worthless. I really was, not in a bad way or anything, but just in my sector. If you met me at one point in my life, I was not much help. And And that's what I've been really working on. So thanks for noticing. Sometimes you do things you don't know you're doing, and that's one of them.
Brother, I will say this on this podcast, and me and you talk a lot. Dude, I am, very proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Very proud of you.
Thanks,
Definitely,
Renard.
man. That
Yeah.
made me get a little emotional, man, because you're a brother to me, and I love seeing my friends, love seeing Amir, love seeing you and so many other friends that we know just get a chance to shine.
Yeah, man. And it hadn't always been like this, right? That's the fun part for me. Like looking back, guys, when I'm talking about like networking with the lowest, I was one of them. Just people, like 30 people that can't make a decision for a company. That ain't no good for anybody, I don't think. Just
Yeah.
leveling up by 1% at a time. Sometimes it's going down, it seems like, but just and I think just not asking for business and anytime you can like show your character outside of business is probably where the real magic is. Like even if you're on a hike, like we brought an intern to the CISO Ascent. He's a junior at Texas Tech in computer science. And I told him, I was like, dude, there's like 50 different ways you'll be able to show your hustle on this trip. Whether it's checking people in or seeing how people are doing on the hike, if they need something, if people need to be helped. So I think just any way to show outside of business what kind of person you are, that's where it's at, I think. Because like I had a CEO a couple weeks ago. He came in the office. We had some candidates for him, and he goes, "Tyler, super." He had the energy I had, guys. He goes, "What's your differentiator?" And I was like, I go, he caught me off guard. I'm like sitting there like, "Jeez, man." And I had one word for him, guys. I said, "Tony, I'm obsessed." It's all I had for him. I said, I went on some tangent. I said, "What? I know I'm a $4 billion company, but what's that even mean? Let's take that for a second, Tony. What the heck does that even mean? You work with a $4 billion vendor." And he looked at me, he goes, "I don't even know what that means." I go, "You got me is what it means." And I'm obsessed with what we're trying to make happen for you. So I think as long as once you do get that shot, to still have that fire, because like we do a lot of work to get there, and that's just one finish line. And this is with anything in life, I think. You do so much work to get to where you are to only know that there's another start line. So where's that energy going to come from? When's that? Is that passion going to be there then? And that's where the differentiator is, I think. Because a lot of people will go to that point, get that C-level job or get that big client with exclusive work. And then it's like, holy smokes, we haven't even done anything yet. and, and sometimes that'll be a year and a half of work, right? To put in to get that VP level or that C level or even longer. But that's I think that's what a lot of people don't talk about. Where's that passion and that drive and that purpose when you're finally there? And do you get a little nervous when you're finally there? Y'all ever experienced that? You're like, "Uh-oh, I'm finally here. This is what I asked for." And now we're starting the real clock is what I've experienced, guys. And I haven't always been successful, guys. This is a lot of this stuff is new to me. Seeing some of these things come to fruition, but having guys like you in my corner that I can just text, all get your experience on means all the world to me. I'll ping it off to one of my friends that it's not even my client half the time, guys, and say, "Hey, this is happening. What would you think, or what would you do?" And that gets me teared up, Renard. Like knowing people in my corner think so much that to give me such experience knowledge that they've lived through has gotten me through so much. And it's even helped me on other projects with this other client I've had. They don't know it came from one of their peers at another client, but there's just different creative ways to do things. And I think it all comes down to like, how bad do you want it? Do you kind of want it? Or do you really freaking want it? And those are the people to me that really move this world and that make changes in this world.
That's that. Go ahead, Amir. Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I agree 100%. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Tyler, I want to put a finer point on what you just now said, man, because ultimately what it boils down to is not the destination, which is what I heard you say, which is you got there, now what? I think it's really the whole journey, because one thing is constant for all of us, our age is always going to go up. we're always getting older. We're always getting more knowledge, more experience, and crystallizing that and putting it to work. So it's not so much when we get there. And yes, you got to want what you want, and you have to be able to drive yourself to it. But ultimately, what is that attitude that you're bringing? And that's the finer point I want to bring out there, which is, you're not going to be the same number a year from now, or 2 years, 10 years from now, if you live long enough. That destination you thought you wanted may not be the thing, but what if you do get it? What is the next step? But that attitude is the thing that's going to be consistent in that whole journey.
But yeah, and we've heard it a million times that, find the joy in the journey and stuff like that. Um, and dude, I'll tell you, that is so annoying to hear when you haven't made anything yet. Like 5 years ago, I was like, "Oh, dude, screw this journey stuff." But, like, what I found is, like, the big belly laughs are in the journey. Like, the laughs aren't at the destination. The laughs, like, seem, for me at least, came to when I really messed some things up. I messed things up in action, though. If I'm gonna err on the side of actions, my whole mantra. But, like, looking back, it just gives me gratitude, like, just feeling grateful for, like, the things what's weird is I feel more grateful for the things I did wrong. Like, not because but now I'm not gonna do that wrong. And the journey to me, like, where I get stuck sometimes is I'll do everything, I'll eat right, I'll, work out right, I'll be all the things I have to do to align, but then I'll hit a plateau. But I'm so blind sometimes, that ain't a bad plateau I'm on. And that's what gets into my head. So every now and then, guys, I'll get to a plateau where, like I said, where eating right, working out, all that stuff, but I won't value where I am then sometimes. And that's part of the journey. To me, it's okay to hit that plateau because guess what? I've been on that awesome plateau before, then I've dropped down and I'm like, I would give anything to get back up to that stinking plateau that I was just on, that I thought I was on. Because I think in the journey, you start seeing big increments of growth at first, giant ones. And then they start getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's where I think I at least get a little fear sometimes, or not as motivated sometimes. But, I think Matthew McConaughey says it one of the best. He talks about running for a touchdown. Are you looking up at the jumbotron, watching yourself run through the to the end zone, or are you going to be like Bo Jackson, run to the end zone and keep running through the tunnel on the other side of the target? And I was like, bro, that's where I get caught up sometimes. Like when I feel nervous, I'm looking up at that jumbotron. I'm not in the process. I'm out of it. But if I'm in the process and I'm going for that touchdown and I keep going through the end zone, that's where, like, I always tell people, talk from your experience and chest. With someone who's about to interview, who's nervous, but they've been doing .NET for a billion years. I'm like, haven't you done this for 22 years sometimes? They're like, yeah. I'm like, just say what you did on 4 projects. Like what you did. And they're like, oh, that's easy. I'm like, okay, we just flipped the script. So, like, staying in the journey and loving it, Amir, is the challenging part, I think, for just any human being. And like I said, that McConaughey quote's my favorite. Just focus on the process. You don't even know you're scoring touchdowns. You're running through the end zone. You're running through the tunnel that you're not even supposed to run through. So the journey, my guys, that's all it is. And I think even the final result sometimes is a little underwhelming. Because guess what? There's another one you got to go chase down usually. You said, oh, there's another starting line. This thing never ends. And to be okay with that, but to chase something is big to me. To have like fun goals. Like I'm 41 working on my vertical again, like doing box jumps. It's like measuring my vertical every day at this age is you don't see a lot of people doing that. But like if I was just to go do box jumps just for fun and not track it in the process, like that journey part is cool, seeing it go up an inch or two every month. That's just, yeah, man, find joy in that journey. It's tough because it's unknown, I think, but just being okay with the unknown and not having expectations will get you a long way.
That is a great quote and a great way to explain it, Tyler. pocket presence and being in that process is just as important as it is running down the field.
Yeah. And when you're running and you see open grass, that ain't no time to get nervous and watch yourself do it. That's the time to keep doing you and let someone else tell you that you scored the touchdown. You don't got to tell people. And that's one thing that's kind of fun. Like, I know you have to sort of run the political game internally, like, hey, I did this just to let everybody know it was this guy. You can do it in different ways, of course, but like, there's nothing better than not saying anything, right? And then someone like a CEO or president pings you and they're like, dude, that was a heck of a job. And I don't know, just act like you've been there before is how I grew up. Instead of we weren't allowed to spike the ball when we were in Pee Wee. My dad was our coach, and we would beat teams by like 60, just because like we were just ahead of like football. We didn't even like run like line drills and stuff. It was just learning and learning. But one thing, it was just that discipline. And I'll go back to the attention to detail too, guys. Like I'm coaching some sixth graders in basketball, and I'll have them run a drill where there's like a lane, and they have to go back and forth with the ball and touch this line with the ball in their hand. 7 out of the 10 of those kids did not touch the line going back and forth, right? So we had to bring it back, and touch that line. And they're like, well, why do we have to do this? And then I heard their parents just love me. They're like, thank goodness someone's teaching some kids some attention to detail, because I think it's important, and a lot, like, we'll go back to the sports stuff. I think a lot of that attention to detail and hard work. I mean, in 2 days, you don't know if you're going to win a game, but why are we practicing twice a week or twice a day in the heat? But that camaraderie and that you wouldn't do that on your own, right? You wouldn't be running around with pads on at 102 by yourself, but like with the whole team out there. And that's where one person can affect a whole group, I think. Or then you have 2 or 3 people start believing. Then heck, can you imagine having 57, 17-year-olds believing in what they're doing? Now that's where you got, and that correlates right to business, guys. Not much change since high school, I don't think, to be honest.
Man, I have to say, Tyler, we're getting close to time. It has been, man, I would say a masterclass on really understanding people has been the answer, I have to say. Now, all this stuff you do, you of course now you're the people's champ. I always ask, what's that theme music for you? What gets you hyped for the day? If it's CISO Ascent, if it's going to an event, what gets you ready for the day?
Man, it changes every day. I've been rocking some Public Enemy lately.
Mm,
Better Than You Thought, or I can't remember the title of the song, but it gets me going, guys. I don't know, but on some days it can't be that. Um, Anything, like, sometimes it's DMX coming out of the tunnel, guys. Doing some dog barking. Some days it's I mean, I'm all over the place, but I know I'm in a good spot. Is my litmus test is kind of funny to me. I know I'm in a good spot when I hear some semi like corny song and it gets me fired up. Other than the opposite, when I'm just like, turn that. So anything with the vibrations, the beat, but I got to be aligned for music to affect me correctly. Y'all ever been in a bad mood and you just don't want to hear anything inspirational before?
mm,
Like, I don't
I've
want to
been
hear
there.
how healthy you are, man. I'm not doing it. like, so it's not even the music. It's got to be me first, is what I've learned recently. And there's nothing better than when music really hits my spirit and my soul. There's something magical about it. But it ain't no good if my family's not healthy and aligned, and the dishes are done before I leave the house, before my wife puts in a 12-hour day with the baby, or the laundry ain't done. So like checking the boxes like that, because it ain't no fun going to work in the doghouse, right? Like when you're at work in the doghouse, like nothing matters. You're like, oh great, I'm glad that happened. Guess what? I'm sleeping outside tonight. So that's what I put a strong focus on. I call my wife my jetpack. I say, hey, when we're awesome, you have no idea how it affects me. But if I, don't take care of a commitment that I committed to, and that's where life really is, fellas, to me. And it's very underwhelming when people ask me about my whatever success. I say, man, I keep my commitments. They're like, oh, that's what else? I'm like, yeah, you know how hard it is to keep a commitment sometimes? Like you say you're going to do something a month from now and you just all of a sudden you can't do it. That's a bogey. That's a double bogey. That's no good on the scorecard, but just showing up, saying what you're going to say, do what you say you're going to do. And we learned that stuff in like kindergarten, I think, and I don't know. It just means a lot to me, guys. Like, and sometimes when I got to break them, it hurts me. It's for a dang good reason. I'll tell you that. But that's what I tell the kids. How can you keep your commitments? Let's start there.
Man, that's the way to end this podcast. That is the way to end the podcast. Tyler, once again, it has been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Like I said, we were excited about this one, like everyone, and we're glad to have you on. And I will say to our Black Belts and Boardrooms listeners, we will see you on the next one.